Hashtag Nerf Stasis. I woke up this morning doing my typical scrolling through social media, and saw this hashtag everywhere. We've been asking for this kinds of stuff for 6 months. The community in general has been very vocal about disapproving of Stasis, especially within PvP, since Beyond Light released about 7 months ago. And now it is trending once again. Hey, what's up, guys? It's your boy, Church of Caboose, the part-time gamer here. Welcome back to my corner of the internet. As you can tell, this video is going to be about the hashtag Nerf Stasis. I'm going to give kind of my opinions with the whole thing, as well as pretty much what the community is talking about, because this is probably one of the very first things that we have more or less a general consensus. Oftentimes, the community is really split on what they want. There's lots of arguments, and we have a very rare occurrence where almost everyone is on the same boat. So that's what we're going to be talking about with this video. Hopefully Bungie will take some heedance of all of this and actually do something instead of just telling everyone we are listening or putting out really cool promos for trials saying they don't want it to be half-baked. So before we get into the video, make sure you guys subscribe to my channel because it's the right thing to do. Like the video and comment your thoughts down below. Do you approve of the idea of nerfing Stasis or getting rid of it altogether? Do you not? And why? I would love to hear your thoughts on this whole thing. So that's going to be our intro. Now I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys more about what's going on. So as we're talking about the hashtag Nerf Stasis, to me it seems to make some sense to give you guys some background history on how Stasis has been going, because not all of my viewers do as much Crucible as perhaps other channels viewers, as well as talking about my opinions with what we should be considering about Stasis, am I a huge fan of it or whatnot, and my experience with Stasis. And we're going to try to end with some solutions, because I like providing solutions to problems as opposed to just the problem. So let's go ahead and kick this off with a little bit of the history. So Stasis came out with Beyond Light. It was uber strong, which from a business standpoint kind of makes sense. With Destiny being free to play, you want to entice people that are playing for free to buy your expansion, and so if you make it where Stasis has to be purchased with Beyond Light, you kind of want to make sure people actually want to have Stasis, and then they're more likely to buy it. For example, when I was playing last night with some new clan members, I used to know them from my times in the military, and we recently connected because they started playing again. They were like, damn, what's this Hunter Stasis thing? I have to get this for myself, and I'm pretty sure at least one of them is going to end up actually buying Beyond Light or finishing off the campaign just because of how overwhelming strong Stasis was and how often he was getting his ass kicked by it, much like the rest of us. So that kind of makes sense a little bit. You would start off with that kind of a subclass being really strong because, again, it's Destiny or Bungie's big selling point for Beyond Light. They did some tunes, they did some buffs, nerfs, adjusted some things, but overall it's still the strongest subclass. And you might be thinking, well, Church, what in the world makes you say it's the strongest subclass? All right, so when we do things like raids, right, we know there are certain weapons that do the most damage, and so those are going to be the things that you want to run. So if we're doing Taniks, for example, we already know Anarchy, Double Slugs, Divinity. Boom. That's going to be your best concoction right now for a one phase of Taniks, the boss on Deepstone Crypt Raid. And the same kind of a thing happens inside of Crucible. You have the metas. Right now it's kind of shaken up a bit because you got people doing the quests for the Catalyst for the sidearms, and the fusion rifles, but eventually, probably in a couple of weeks, it's going to settle out. We're going to probably see a meta more or less of hand cannons and shotguns, and we're going to kind of go back to normal because those are the things that tend to do the best for the most people. So the most people are going to start using them, and it's just going to kind of settle in. And so Stasis is really the meta. That's how we know Stasis is way too damn strong. So you have 4 subclasses. So in theory, if every subclass was pretty well balanced, I mean, of course, there's going to be certain ones that have advantages over others. But in general, you'd see probably about 25% spread across the entire Destiny community. But instead, when you load into a 6v6 match, you will 9 times out of 10 have a Hunter on Stasis. They might do something else, it's possible, because again, free to play, they might not have Stasis as an option, and I am convinced that that's why they're not running Stasis. If they aren't, it's because they probably haven't unlocked it and they're not able to actually wield it yet. So most hunters, you're going to be running Stasis. If you are a Titan and you enjoy shotgunning, you're probably going to be running Stasis. If you're a Warlock, you find a very fun to kind of use some lanes in those rifts, you'll probably probably use Stasis because Stasis is a fantastic counter against folks rushing with the shotgun, because all you have to do is just use your ranged melee attack. So you see lots and lots and lots of Stasis. So that already tells you that's probably the strongest thing, because it's the same principle as like weapons that you use in a raid or a dungeon, PvE. Whatever is the strongest is going to get used the most, so it's the same kind of a thing. So clearly, that is the strongest subclass. Its other kind of really big main issue for why it's the strongest subclass is because it is incredibly difficult to fight when you can't fight. If you get frozen, nothing you can do. You pretty much know I am dead. In my experience, and from my opinion, basically the only time you might be able to get away from being frozen is if you're kind of like in a one-on-one sort of a scenario, maybe something like Trials or Comp, and they manage to get you around the corner, because it's possible with some resilience, but otherwise, you know you're pretty much dead. And that's what ultimately is killing the PvP game mode, and is why this whole thing started. We had a while back at the beginning of Beyond Light where like Hush was saying like, hey, I'm over this, I'm done. He recently came back, and it's already seeming like he's kind of like, yep, this was a mistake. I'm going to see myself out. We'll see. That's just a prediction I'm making. He has not actually said it, but he is one of the ones that also said, tweeted out with the hashtag Nerf Stasis and some reasonings for why. Because what's really happening is these games are turning into more about who's got the most abilities. We already had huge advantages for running things like 100 recovery, 100 intellect, 100 discipline, things like that, and now it's just even more essential, because like hunters, for example, if they have a mask of back wrist, they freaking teleport. For the average Joe, it's a rather hard thing to track. I oftentimes have a hard time tracking it myself, and I am by no means trying to say, oh, woe is me, I'm really good, I get my ass kicked, Stasis has to go. I'm like, nah fam. And for me, it's like, I normally don't do that great. But somehow last season, I had a KD in comp of a 1.15, I think it was, in Season of the Chosen. And overall KD for everything, that includes trials, comp, 6v6, things where I don't normally get above a 1 KD. I had a 1.26 KDA, kill death assist ratio. In comp, I think I was closer to a 1.4, maybe a 1.5, and I'm kind of proud of that. I can't say that's because I got insanely better. It's just because I got smarter with how I use Stasis. And I think this is a big issue for a lot of folks. Stasis really helps to flip lots of situations that should not have gotten flipped. For example, if you follow my stream very much, you'll probably notice times in comp where I win 1v2s and sometimes 1v3s because of Stasis, because I just can run around, wait for my abilities to charge up, do my best to avoid everyone. Maybe I get a pick now and then, and I either get my super or I get my snap grenade, throw that puppy down behind me, boom, I get all three of them with one melee ability. Like, that is what's really ticking people off with the Stasis, because Destiny is not turning into a more competitive game. It's not turning into more of a place to show off your skill. Like, people want that. That's supposed to be the point of trials, is to really show off your skill. But instead, it's turning more into who's got the best, like, grenade throws, or best use of aspects, stuff like that. And it's gotten even worse. This is probably why I think that this hashtag Nerf Stasis is at where it's at right now. So now I've given you guys a little bit of like the history and the lead up and perhaps some of the general frustrations. This is probably why, in my opinion, all this stuff sparked off. So with the new season, I know we're only like 2.5 days into it, which should be an indication of why this is a big problem. There were new aspects that you get. An aspect, if you're not familiar, is a way you can kind of modify your Stasis super. It gives you like different perks for kind of your abilities and different functions. For example, a Titan with one aspect can be a really slidey, ice skatey boy, which makes shotgunning great. Warlocks can get a rift, and when they throw it down, if you're caught, you get frozen. And then hunters like have like shadow dive. So it's just an example of some of those aspects. The new ones that were added in were indubitably in favor of the hunter, although the Titan one's also pretty good. Haven't gotten to try out the Warlock one a whole lot. I'm not sure that the Warlock one's on par with the other two, but time will tell. But basically, what the Hunter one does is it increases your dust fuel grenade. It makes it bigger. I believe it gives it more of a pull, and it might do some other stuff. But the point is it improves your dust fuel grenade. Or if you're running the snap grenade, it tracks faster, farther, and it gets additional targets it can attach to, because it can attach attach to multiple targets, and I guess they add one more target that it can attach to. So you're just like boop, 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 and you can get a whole bunch of folks real quick with that aspect. I believe it does some other stuff, but the main deal is, especially for the hunters, a lot of stuff that was already a huge problem. And hunters are, by numbers, just the most dominated class, especially inside of PvP, makes them even more strong, which I have a feeling is part of why this whole hashtag Nerf Stasis came up, because the subclass that is already the strongest just got stronger, and since it's the most popular, you're more likely to run into it, and these aspects aren't crazy hard to get, so it's plausible at least many of the main PvP guys already have it. The Titan one, you generate like a lance of stasis you can throw as long as you shatter somebody that was frozen or slowed or whatever. Like you can generate like a lance, you grab it, you can slam it like Rasputin's Warmind staff, where you can throw it and destroy something or freeze them. I've been trying to use it in PvP. I'm not very good, so I'm not sure if it's crazy strong, but the main thing is we're getting aspects that make the stasis even worse. And I think that's why we have this hashtag Nerf Stasis going on right now, kind of why it's a bigger deal. I know we as a community for a while I've been asking Bungie, like, please, for the love of God, either really nerf Stasis or really buff flight subclasses. Folks are throwing around things like make it where Solar is stronger against Stasis, kind of do like a Pokemon card kind of a thing. So like, I don't know, like Arc would be strong against Void, Void would be strong against Solar, Solar would be strong against Stasis, Stasis is strong against Arc. I don't know, just something like that. And Bungie's kind of done nothing. They're just like, we're listening. They occasionally do like fine tuning. And I think they did some announcement really recently that's also probably a huge 50-50 factor along with the aspects for why hashtag Nerf Stasis is a thing right now, where they said we're listening. Over the next couple of seasons, we are going to be fine-tuning and nerfing Stasis to be adequate with the other subclasses. It's something like that, from what I can gather. And unfortunately, that's not good enough. When the community has been asking for about 7 months to at least make the other classes just as equally viable, no one really wants to hear back over the coming seasons we're going to be fine-tuning it and nerfing it. What people want to hear is, in response, we're going to add in a game mode where there's no supers at all, or where there's no stasis allowed, or we're going to be just absolutely putting stasis into the dirt and then buffing it. So that's kind of what's been sparking up this whole thing with Nerf Stasis, is that people really don't feel like Bungie is actually listening. And the reason I'm talking about this is because I'm kind of someone who spends a lot of time with Crucible. I enjoy it for the most part, not because I'm good at it, although I do sometimes have my moments, but because I don't know, I hate myself. Like, I'm not entirely sure why I love Crucible so much and why I have a lot of fun. Just like, I could spend a whole day just playing quick play and comp, and for the most part enjoy myself. Other than Stasis, and once Stasis came around, it got a little bit tougher to have more fun. So I'm just trying to give more of a perspective from someone that's perhaps like in the middle ring, maybe, with the whole community, because perhaps Bungie or others might find this kind of input from an average kind of a player perhaps more valuable than like the upper echelons of like the top like 5-10% players. Because they're going to have much different experiences. And I would argue probably for them, Stasis would probably be worse. Like at my ring, at my tier, I whiff grenades. So like people are probably whiffing their own grenades. And so they might be getting frozen way more often than I am. This sidearm that just got introduced might be freezing people in the upper echelons way more often than it's happening for me. I have a hard time getting that kill and then getting the freezing shot off, although it happens occasionally, but that's partially because I'm not very good. So I would like to think that the upper echelons, this problem's even worse, but so like keep that in mind as we're kind of talking about, because I'm going to give you guys kind of my thoughts with Stasis, and so I figured I should preface my thoughts with how I at least view my own skill level. So I had mentioned before how my KD went way up. Like KDA especially went way up. From my overall history, I think is like a 0.9, I believe, KD, something like that overall. But this last season, it was bonkers for me. I had a comp was well over a 1. It's like a 1.15 or something, which for me is well over a 1. KDA for the whole entire everything, trials, where I would just like run with clanmates who I never play PvP just to try and help them out so that my KD tanks. Survival, Iron Banner, 6v6, Rumble, those Mayhem's modes, all that stuff overall was a 1.26 KDA for the last season. Like, that should be a huge indicator, and it is to me at least, that Stasis is busted, because that's not an accurate reflection of my actual skills. I had multiple games, if you guys follow my streams, where I was winning 1v2s, 1v3s because I could figure it out how to run out the clock and get my abilities up, or I was like, you know what, I can let this run into the zone, and all I gotta do is just throw a snap grenade on the zone and I'll win the fight. And I'm not the only one that uses these things to their advantage, so it might be something kind of weird. You might be like, Church, why are you arguing against something that helps you out so much? And it's because I know it's not because I'm actually better, it's because the abilities are too damn strong. That's why I want to be able to get better, and it's so hard to gauge if you're getting better or not when you have these abilities. And also, it's very frustrating as a player to do things and just constantly get frozen, which kind of leads me to my other point of the experience, which is going to be mine and trying to relay some of other people's. There's been many games where I have played where folks in my clan or just my fire team are like, you know what, I have to have a break from this 6v6. It's getting so frustrating being frozen all the time. Let's do comp. And if you play Destiny a whole lot, that's kind of backwards. Usually people do 6v6 to kind of chill out, have some fun, get some easy kills. And comp is like, okay, this is where we sweat. But now comp is where it's actually more fun and more manageable. When there's only 3 people, it's a little bit easier to keep track of who's got the stasis and to avoid the corners, because the maps are better for 3v3 than 6v6. When it's the 6v6, you're just like spawning into squalls, slow grenades, shurikens, glaciers, dust fields, the wraith super tight. It's just all over the place, and it's just not a whole lot of fun for a lot of people. So this is where all the stasis is coming from. In my own opinion, stasis is clearly way too damn strong, but what in the world can we do about this? We're going to try to end the video here rather briefly. So there's been a couple of popular opinions that I actually kind of happen to really like. So we're going to go through them. One would be to try and do something with like stasis or super Pokemon, where stuff is stronger against the others, because you can change things in the match. So you can see, oh look, the whole other team is running stasis, I want to switch to solar. Or like, you know, so that way you have some kind of like something beats something else. That could be a thing, but that seems really hard coding wise. So some more practical kinds of stuff would be to give us a game mode that is no supers, maybe at all, or just no stasis. And it's not Scorched. You might be like, well, Church, there's Scorched. Scorched is stupid. I don't understand how people take Scorched so seriously. Or like I was playing on Scorched on Steam and people appeared to be like aimbotting. It was really weird. Like, why would you do that on Scorched? But whatever. I mean, like something like momentum control, where you use your guns, but you just don't have the use of any abilities, any supers, nothing. It's just you or your movements and your gunplay. Of course, you can double jump, but that's about it. And that would be a potential solution while Bungie tries to fix a lot of stuff. And that would give a lot of outs for folks like myself and others who are frustrated with stasis to hop on in there and crank out some fun, more entertaining modes, or at the very least just get a break from some stasis. We just need a break from stasis at the very least. Another idea that people had that I happen to also really like was to just get rid of stasis entirely. It was just to say, all right, PvP, no more stasis. Part of why we know this could be a thing is Bungie's already kind of screwed themselves a little bit by showing us they can tune things and balance stuff separate from each other, because they had things that were tuned for PvE and PvP, but they were different. They weren't the same tunings, and they were separate. So one buff only worked in PvE, one nerf only worked in PvP. So we can kind of be like, all right, we can expect a reasonable thing to say, all right, stasis is now equipable inside of PvP, or maybe it's not equipable in something like Trials. I don't know. Find something to do where we can get rid of stasis for PvP until it can be balanced out really well. And perhaps the better solution for Bungie, and this is going to be the last idea that I wanted to propose that is also popular on Twitter, was just to absolutely tank stasis into the dirt. Instead of slowly tuning it over time, tank it into the dirt, so that way right now the light subclasses are the best, and then you just kind of buff up stasis until you start seeing those numbers where they're kind of balancing out, where things are kind of even, and that'd be a good indication that stasis and the light subclasses are in a good harmony of playing against each other, and one's not overly dominating the other. So those are some ideas we have to fix everything. I appreciate you guys for watching. Don't forget to leave comments below about what you feel with Stasis. Do you agree with Nerf Stasis? Do you not? Things like that. Just let me know. Thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate you guys all hanging in here and hanging out with me and listening to my ramblings about Stasis and my thoughts with the hashtag Nerf Stasis, why I'm not happy with it, some of the history and some ideas going forward. I would love to see a tune with Stasis. It's helped me out way too much. Perhaps why it's frustrating a little bit for others and why it works out well for me is because we got so many abilities and weapons now that can let you just be absolutely reckless and you can still win. Like I got an igneous hammer with rampage, but that lets me to engage engagement I probably shouldn't be doing because I can 2-tap folks. Couple that with Stasis where you can freeze, you can put yourself out there and come out with a win and win things you really probably should not be winning, and that I think is ultimately why Stasis is a problem. We got too many really strong things, and Stasis is at the very least a catalyst to making everything worse. So hopefully Bungie will take some heedings and try and make sure their community stays alive. I want Destiny to be around forever, and hopefully it will be. All right, y'all, thank you so much for watching. I am Church of Caboose. Have a great week and happy grinding, y'all.